Thank you for joining the second video in Expedient's two-part series featuring our host-to-host virtual server replication solution. My name is Michael Gonda. I am a Senior Solutions Architect for Expedient, and in this video we will provide a demonstration of the host-to-host replication solution. We will begin our walkthrough of the solution by reviewing environment access options. Customers can access local disaster recovery tools on their platform via the vSphere desktop client or the standalone web portal. The application experience is the same using either method. When connecting to Expedient's cloud-based disaster recovery as a service solution, you will be directed to a web portal. On this web portal, you will find all the features and functionality needed to manage DR replication tasks, as well as the tools needed to perform test and live DR failovers. It's important to keep in mind that Expedient is providing a turnkey DR solution for our customers. Our solution includes 24/7 support, licensing, monitoring, and most importantly, our experience and expertise. However, we are utilizing off-the-shelf technology for replication and DR orchestration tasks. This off-the-shelf software is called Zerto Virtual Replication, which is developed by our partners at Zerto. During the course of this video, we will mainly be using the vSphere client, and we will be accessing the Zerto Virtual Replication configuration via the Zerto tab on the far right-hand side of the client software. This Zerto tab is present after you have properly installed the Zerto Virtual Replication product and have successfully paired it with vCenter. Next, let's discuss the steps needed to protect virtual machines from a production site to a disaster recovery location. For this demonstration, we will be protecting a virtual machine from a customer platform to Expedient's cloud. However, as we discussed in part 1 of this video series, replication from Expedient's cloud hosting solution to a legacy customer platform is also possible. Additionally, bidirectional replication between sites is also a common deployment scenario. After clicking on the dashboard view in the Zerto tab in the vCenter client, we can find the VPGs tab directly underneath. The acronym VPG stands for Virtual Protection Group. All virtual machines must be in a VPG to be protected. We can add virtual machines to VPGs in groups, or we can protect individual machines. During this walkthrough, we will choose to protect a single virtual machine called Test VM by selecting the subject virtual machine in inventory, then clicking on Protect as a standalone VM on the right side. We are only protecting one virtual machine in a group by itself, so let's click on Protect as a standalone VM. Now, let's run through some configuration options. The first tab is a new VPG tab. VPG name is simply the name of the VPG group that we wish to assign. Priority is the level of importance you want this group to take over other VPG groups. Click Next to continue. Currently, our group only has one VM. On the right-hand side, under the Select VMs column, you can see which VMs are going to be protected. If we want to add more VMs, we could simply search and selectively add more VMs from the left to the right columns. But again, for this demonstration, we're only going to use one virtual machine, so let's click Next to continue. The third tab is the Replication tab. Here we will set where we want to replicate the data to. Recovery Site selects which location you want to replicate to. In this instance, we are replicating from a customer premise to Expedient data centers. From the default Recovery Services section, you can specify which resources to use as an endpoint for replication. In some environments, you can be very granular and specify which host the VM should land on. In this case, we don't want to limit you to a host. We simply specify your resource pool and allow DRaaS to pick the right host for your VM. The data store selection is fairly straightforward. In the Expedient Cloud, each customer gets their own data store or multiple data stores. Using the drop-down menu, we can determine which data store we would like the protected virtual machine to end up in. The SLA selection defines two key options. The first is Journal History. Journal History tells the software how far back to store change data. What this means is essentially, in the event of a failure, we can rewind a protected virtual machine to 30 minutes, 1 hour, or further back, depending on the range we pick here. Note, however, the longer the journal history, the more data store space is required. The target RPO alert is a warning sent to vCenter notifying us that your recovery point objective is outside of a specified range. Consider if you had a high change rate file server and business requirements dictate that you can't lose more than 5 minutes of change data. In this instance, you would set the alarm to 5 minutes. With this setting in place, if the replication between environments goes past 5 minutes, we will be notified that the VM is no longer meeting a 5-minute SLA. This means that any changes to the production environment made in the last 5 minutes have not been replicated. If your business requirements change in the future, we can easily set the RPO alert to a higher or lower threshold. There is one other option to discuss on this tab. In most, if not all situations, we should enable compression between environments. With compression turned on, the platform will utilize much less bandwidth, and we will also be able to meet lower RPO requirements. Click Next to continue. From the Storage tab, we can define additional options. For example, we can convert from thick to thin provisioning on the fly, and we can also define a swap drive, which means virtual machine swap drives will only replicate once and future changes will be ignored. This is good for swap drives, log drives, or any other drive that should not be replicated or are being replicated by another means. Typically speaking, it's best to leave the thin provision checkmark enabled without checking the swap checkbox. However, it is often recommended that database servers make use of this swap feature. Clicking on the Next button takes us to the recovery settings. The Recovery tab defines which networks to bind the virtual machine network cards to. As we all know, DR plans require testing. Expedient's host-to-host solution allows us to easily test virtual machines by placing test VMs on a special port group that does not interfere with live traffic. From this tab, you can define which ports are used for testing and which port groups are used for live failover events. Let's select a standard port group for failover remove events and a test bubble port group, which is a port group that is on a separate non-routable VLAN for DR testing. Also from this tab, we can specify what folder to recover virtual machines into. Let's click Next to continue. The Next tab allows us to further modify the network interface card. The ability to re-IP a virtual machine on a fly is configured from this tab. This function requires that VMTools is installed and running on the target virtual machine. There are certain scenarios where a re-IP is not needed, while in other situations it may be a requirement. Please consult with your Expedient representative to discuss options and best practice deployment recommendations. However, for this solution overview, we will not be re-IPing the virtual machine. Let's proceed. Click Next to continue. The Backup tab is a feature that allows you to snapshot VMDK files in a limited capacity. This feature is not configured by default. In fact, Expedient strongly recommends that DR solutions should be used for environment disaster recovery, and backup solutions should be used for the backup and recovery of individual files and/or folders. We don't recommend mixing backup and disaster recovery solutions on the same platform. As such, we encourage our customers to make use of a full-feature backup solution. With this in mind, in this case, we're going to leave the backup toggle switch in the off position. We'll click Next to continue. The following page summarizes our VPG configuration. We can review our options and make changes by pressing the previous button. However, after review, it appears that our settings look good, so let's continue by pressing Done. As soon as this button is pressed, bitmap sync replication will commence. The first cold sync of data between the production and disaster recovery sites may take some time. How much time it takes to perform this initial cold sync is dependent upon available bandwidth, virtual platform throughput, and the size of the virtual machine or machines being protected. That said, in some cases we are able to pre-seed this data and cut down the initial sync time. Again, please speak with your Expedient representative for options and recommendations. After the initial virtual machine synchronization has completed, the platform will notify us that the machine is protected by showing us a green check mark along with the words Meeting SLA. To the right, we can see the number of virtual protection groups and virtual machines being protected, and below we can see the RPO time in seconds. In this case, the RPO for our test virtual machine is 8 seconds, meaning that all change data written to that virtual machine in a production data center is also being replicated to the DR site every 8 seconds. Next, let's talk about failing over virtual protection groups. Now that our VPG is set up and we have completed the first cold sync, we can perform 3 actions on protected virtual machines. By logging into either the production or DR site, we can move protected virtual machines from one data center to another as a planned migration. We can test the failover of protected virtual machines on a schedule dictated by business stakeholders, or we can perform a live, unplanned failover of protected virtual machines in the event of a disaster. Let's do a quick demonstration of a failover event following a disaster declaration. And let's assume the disaster in the production site took away connectivity between the production platform and the DR site. In this instance, our customers have 2 options. First, from any location that has internet access, we can log in directly to Expedient's web portal to initiate the recovery of virtual machines at the disaster recovery site. Secondly, remember this is a managed service from Expedient. Our 24/7 by 365 staff can assist you in bringing up your production environment. Now, let's connect to the web portal to initiate a failover of our protected virtual machine. After having successfully connected to Expedient's SSL VPN solution that provides access to our customer's cloud environment, we can open a web browser and navigate to the web portal. The URL and credentials should be stored in your DR runbook, and using the Expedient-provided credentials, let's log into the panel. Note that the VPG list looks exactly the same as from the vSphere client, however there are a few missing tabs on this view. These tabs are not necessary in Expedient's cloud-based solution and have been removed to unclutter the customer experience. Earlier in this demonstration, we created the test VPG. Let's go ahead and fail over this test virtual protection group now. In the lower right-hand corner, we will flip the radio switch from test to live. Notice how the bar turns bright red. This is to let us know that this is a real failover. We will now click the failover button. If we had more virtual protection groups available for failover, we could choose them here. However, in this demonstration, we are only going to select a single test VPG that we created earlier. Click Next to continue. We are now presented with two important options. The first is VM shutdown. In our example, we have assumed that we have lost connectivity to the production site, and we don't know if the VM is still powered on. If this is the case, we can leave this setting as no, and Zerto will not attempt to gracefully shut down the target virtual machine in production. If we had connectivity between the production and DR sites, we could select yes on the drop-down menu. As long as the target machine has VM tools installed and running, we can send shutdown instructions to Zerto to have vCenter cleanly shut down the VM. Keep in mind, in this case, if the shutdown command fails, the target virtual machine will not fail over to the DR site. Lastly, if we have connectivity between a production site and DR, but our virtual machine did not have VM tools installed, we could force a shutdown. At this point, Zerto will send a shutdown command and then wait 5 minutes before forcing the shutdown through vCenter. The type of disaster affecting the production site will dictate the shutdown settings we would select here. The second option to call out on this page is reverse protection. Even if the original production site VM is offline, we should enable this feature by clicking the box. With reverse protection enabled, change data is logged. This logging will allow changes to flow back to the original site as it is brought online following the disaster event without needing to cold seed data between sites. After we click on the next button, we can verify the number of protection groups and virtual machines to be failed over, and we can commit the failover by pushing the Start Failover button. At the bottom of the screen, we can see the failover task is now running. After going into the vSphere client on the disaster recovery site, we navigate into the test resource pool and we can see our VM being recovered. The test VM is being spawned and vCenter is starting up the virtual machine. Once this is complete, we have protected the virtual machine and it is now running in the disaster recovery site. This concludes part 2 of Expedient's host-to-host replication video series. If you have additional questions about our host-to-host solution, or if you would like to speak to an Expedient representative about your specific business needs, please contact us at www.expedient.com or call us at 877-570-7827. Thank you.